Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and the Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. The 1973 Justice League Justice Society crossover team-up is on the horizon. It looms ever closer. And the 1973 crossover is famous because it revives characters previously published by Quality Comics and creates a new superhero team around them called the Freedom Fighters.
Yes.
We're looking forward to it very much. And in the spirit of our Seven Soldiers episode during the summer, we're doing a few episodes where we introduce ourselves, acquaint ourselves with the characters who are going to become the Freedom Fighters and do some stories featuring them so we're all a bit more familiar with them before we start. Now, obviously, last week we did our very enjoyed recording it,
absolutely,
didn't we?
yes. Great fun.
Our Human Bombs episode.
Or is it Humans Bomb? Discuss.
Humans Bomb plus Bomber.
Yes,
Anyway,
there you go.
but this week and next week we're going to do some stories in the sort of tried and tested, twists on legacy that we like to do to get used to some of the other characters. This week's episode we're going to meet Uncle Sam and the Black Condor, but before we get to the stories featuring Uncle Sam and Black Condor, we're going to do a very interesting piece from issue 2 of Uncle Sam Quarterly, published on the 17th of December 1941. Very soon indeed after Pearl Harbor.
Certainly was, yeah. Gosh, crikey.
What, a week and a half?
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying to think about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Peter has a fascinating fact about Uncle Sam Quarterly.
Yes. Uncle Sam Quarterly ran for 8 issues, but then from issue 9 it was rebranded as Black Hawk and continued on with that as the main Black Hawk series.
I think that's fantastic,
That's
don't
insane,
you?
yeah.
So which means that when we did Black Hawk 220 odd issues a couple of years ago,
Yep.
that was a continuation of the Uncle Sam Quarterly.
Yes.
Can you imagine, right, if Green Lantern Quarterly, instead of being cancelled when Hal Jordan went mad, it turned it into a regular monthly book featuring, I don't know, Lobo or Impulse or something.
That would be an interesting choice.
Can you imagine? It seems so bizarre that the fact that they did that. But anyway, to get us back to the point, we're doing a piece, Peter described it in our prep as a poem, really, from Uncle Sam Quarterly issue 2. And there's something very special about this, isn't there?
There is indeed. This is the only time in Quality Comics history that the Quality Comics heroes appear to team up together and indeed even just interact with each other.
It's very interesting. I mean, is this in the public domain? Can we put this? Will we be able to put these entire pages on
We will be putting all these pages
socials?
up.
Good.
Yes, all the stories we're doing today are public domain comics and are
Awesome.
available from the Digital Comic Museum and indeed Comic Book Plus.
Good.
So there we are.
Good. So we'll pause for a sec while you go and log on to either of those websites and look up Uncle Sam Quarterly. Yes, so we begin with The Villain's Revolt. Now, this is basically an illustrated poem, a few verses with drawings beside them, so we'll see how we get on. The Villain's Revolt is sort of there in a nice big caption, and there's a sort of subheading which says, "Who swiped my comic book?" And there's a sort of insert of Uncle Sam, that young old face and little white chin beard and his Yankee Doodle hat, and he's saying, "Tisk, tisk, tisk." And the piece begins with, I suppose it's almost a sort of generic cartoon sort of bad guy. He's wearing a purple suit, he has a swastika armband, he has a horrible hooked nose, he's a big cape and a big hat, and the hat is something, has a mortgage deed tucked into it. He has green skin, a big moustache, big ears, what looks like a false prosthetic nose, maybe it's just the way it's shaded, dark green hairy hands, there are nails in the soles of his boots, he's a pistol in a holster at his waist. Grotesque, and he's carrying the sign that says "The Villain's Revolt, Who Swiped My Comic Book." And the poem begins.
Oh, hark to the tale of the terrible crime, which eclipses all things from the dawning of time, how the fiends from comic books leapt from the page and ploughed under the heroes in terrible rage. Now in comic books, the hero always triumphed over crime, and the nasty villain suffered, and the world was all sublime. Oh, the ladies cheered their hero, and the crowds let out a roar, while the good guy smacked the villain through a triple-plated door.
And the illustration which accompanies this verse, listeners, features a character called Hercules who appears to just wear blue shorts and blue boots and a little red collar with a blue cape, punching this green-skinned, yellow and purple-clad baddie through, indeed, a triple-plated door. His knife goes flying. He doesn't look too happy.
But the cheers had sunk to whispers, the crowd stood all aghast, and the hero gaped astounded, 'cause the worm had turned at last. For the villain flaunted custom as he rose from out the fray, bawled out the hero soundly and indignant stalked away.
And it gets a bit meta here because this illustration shows the green-skinned, mustachioed, purple-wearing baddie holding up a hand to Hercules as if to say, what? And indeed we see in this panel the villain saying,
Hold on! We villains have been taking it long enough. I quit!
And we see him leaving the comic book, walking off, leaving Hercules just raising his arms in surprise.
Gasp.
They're all very meta.
He then called a strike of villains. All the heroes had no foes. While the comic artist pleaded, the villains picketed in rows. Then the super fiend decided that to cap his victory, he would kidnap all the artists in the comic factory.
Yes, and this illustration shows a comic artist being pummeled as he sits at his drawing board, and what looks like military figures, and a lot of other villainous-looking characters, some of whom may have well appeared in quality comics, but we haven't had the time or the resources to actually dig out. There's someone who looks kind of like Morticia from the Addams Family.
Yeah.
There's a big, brutish man in a purple military uniform with gold epaulets. There's another guy at the front who looks a bit more Axis in his inclination, and they're all carrying signs that say things like, "Curses, unfair to organised villains. We've taken it in the chin long enough. Yeah, we quit, me too," etc. And the next verse reads as so.
Then he outlawed things like heroes, made the fiends the super race, threatened death to all cartoonists if they drew a handsome face. So the heroes lost their power. All the fiends were overjoyed, and the erstwhile mighty heroes joined the ranks of the unemployed.
This is great. We see a few comic artists, a line of them in fact, all tied to their desk with ball and chains, and the big green-skinned villain looming over them. And we see a queue of superheroes walking past a sign that says Breadline. Now at the front is the aforementioned Hercules. Behind him is the red-hooded figure of Neon the Unknown, who we will see again far in the future in the pages of All-Star Squadron.
Yes.
Behind him is Quicksilver, aka Max Mercury, and behind him is the Ray who will meet properly next week, but he's the all in gold with the fin on top chap from the Freedom Fighters. So you probably, if you listen to this podcast, you're going to know who the Ray is. And there's a few other chaps behind the Ray who we're not too sure who they are, to be honest. The next verse reads,
When the children of the nations saw their heroes in this plight, it destroyed their faith in goodness, and they started into fights. Then they wouldn't eat their oatmeal, and the good kids pined away, while the tough ones just got tougher. Yes, sir, crime was here to stay.
Yes, and the accompanying illustration just shows a few, very like Jack Kirby street kid gang characters just sort of fighting each other. There's a couple of little boys fighting, a couple of little girls rolling about on the ground, pulling pigtails and throwing dollies. One kid smoking a cigar by the looks of it.
Gosh.
And someone else bawling their eyes out because their bowl of oatmeal has been upended in the ground. The next verse reads,
So the schools all closed their portals, for the kids just wouldn't go, and the villains ruled the country. Oh, it was a bitter blow. Then our Uncle Sam took notice, and he said, This mustn't be, for these things can't be permitted in this land of liberty.
The illustration to accompany that verse shows Uncle Sam, resplendent in his red and white striped trousers and blue tailcoat and Yankee Doodle hat and bow tie, shoving a very tough-looking kid out the way, and he walks past a building which has closed written on it. The next verse reads,
So he smashed into the workshop in the comic factory, and he cried, See here, you scoundrel, you just listen here to me. Now you liberate these artists and be quick about it too, for the country's in a nasty state, and all because of you.
Presumably, yes, indeed, the building that was closed was where they make the comics, because we can see the illustration for this verse sees Sam approaching a building with comic book factory written on it. I'd like to work there. And there's another accompanying image of Sam punching through a big iron door and punching the green-skinned, mustachioed, purple-hatted villain, who's been the menace all the way through this, square in the jaw, sending him flying. The next verse.
But the villain merely snickered as he twirled his black moustache, and by pushing down a lever caused machinery to clash. Then a copule snagged a coattail. Swish, our uncle disappeared. Through the eye machine he hurtled. How the villain snarled and sneered.
And that's basically what we see. We see Sam's coattails getting caught. Well, it's kind of like a big fancy mangle.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sam popping out the other end. And it seems though his trousers and his clothes are now covered in eyes. It's the only way I can put it. As I say, these pages are going up, so you'll be able to have a look for yourself. Sam doesn't look too happy. The next verse.
When he leaped upon the villain, and they rolled about the floor, while the lettering contrivance splattered ink in every pore. Then the super clean-up gadget grabbed them both and sucked them in. Gave 'em both an awful scrubbing, wore their breeches pretty thin. Down the room they slammed and tumbled, through the colouring machine, bounded into the idea gadget, painted up a pretty green. Both contestants were all tattered, hard the blows they took and gave. Though our Uncle Sam was winning, still the fiend would not behave.
And the accompanying images basically just show Sam battling with the green baddie, falling into ink and then falling through other machines as described. You'll be able to see these on the socials. They'll do a much better job than me attempting to describe it, to be honest. And we reach the final page.
So our hero slammed the villain, and he fell into a slot. Then the thing that cleans up errors put the villain on the spot. For the ink eraser ground him to a smudge upon the floor. Then the white paint smoothed it over, and the villain was no more.
Yes, we see Sam knocking the villain into another mangle-type squeezing device, and then almost like a mechanical arm attached to a wall with a brush at the end, painting over him with the white paint as it describes, just smooshing him out completely.
With the wicked fiend defeated and the comic artists free, things were slowly slipping back into the way they used to be. Super guys were reinstated as the wonder men of yore, but the thing that worried Uncle was the strike outside the door.
Yes. The heroes being revived is illustrated by a nice shot of Black Condor flying past, and we see some artists working. Actually, it seems that they're scooting about on bikes, and one guy seems to be in a toy aeroplane of sorts, as they illustrate, but there's also an aerial shot of Sam's head poking out the chimney of the comic factory, looking at the striking villains who are walking about outside. Sam again shakes his head and says, "Tisk, tisk, tisk," and the next verse reads,
So he gave the fiends a lecture on their status in the land, and he made them think that villains were a necessary band, because the kids must have their heroes and the heroes must have foes, so the villain should return to work before the trouble grows.
A nice shot of Sam lecturing the bad guys, some real grotesque. You see the woman who I compared to Morticia Addams. She's got green skin. You can see them all their signs. One guy with a very grotesque face holding a sign says, "We crooks are being robbed." Another guy looks like a bit more generic bad guy holding a sign saying "unfair." I'm going to be uncharitable and say the second guy actually looks a bit like me, to be honest. If you ever imagine what Dave Steele looks like. But anyway, the final verse.
So the villains all returned to work, contented with their lots, and Uncle Sam had kept the land from going all to pots. Now the kids all eat their oatmeal, and they go to school in time, and the nasty villains suffer. Now the world is all sublime.
And this final verse is illustrated with a cracking shot of the Ray punching out someone in a military uniform with a swastika on his armband, and some kids eating their oatmeal as they run happily to school. The end.
That was great.
That was.
That's just nuts. And it's very, very meta. The whole cartoonists on strike. This is way before Grant Morrison was even born.
Of course. It's way before Neil Adams was, trying to get everyone creators' rights and all that in the 70s and getting Schuster and Siegel sorted out.
Yep.
That's fascinating. Listeners, you may have been familiar with it because I've seen it prop up in a couple of pages here and there, but it's definitely worth covering.
And it's just so fun, and it's very different from anything else that's in it because obviously, it is, as you said, an illustrated poem, which you don't really get at all. So it's great.
Have you ever considered doing an illustrated comic poem yourself, Peter?
I have, actually. Funnily enough.
I know, that was a leading question.
I know, there you go. Yes, The Lang Walk Hame is my comic poem. That's about a drunk man's journey home from the pub one night who finds that he really has to go to the toilet and is in a bit of a predicament. Gets
caught short, you might say. Yes, listeners, you should look it up on the socials. We don't promote it on here enough, actually. It's Peter's masterwork. It's genius. It's very, very funny. It should be a Hogmanay classic, if you ask me. It's worth pointing out that similar poems also appear in other issues of Uncle Sam Quarterly. We may do one of those at some point in the future. You never know. Aside from the fact it's really nice to see Quicksilver again, that is a bit joyous, really. It's really clever and really funny, and it really sums up the quality term in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the term quality was sort of used because they tried to get better artists, and they just wanted the comics to look as if they were of a better quality. And this is a nice little, it's very clever and literate and very funny, and I suppose in many ways it just shows you how much things have been dumbed down since. I don't know. Is that too controversial a statement?
Would you see this in a Brian Bendis comic?
No, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
What you would have is 18 pages of them all yapping about the strike and all such things. And
there we are.
Anyway, so we stay in the pages of Uncle Sam Quarterly issue 2, and we move to the very next story. So as Peter says, these stories are available online. If you've been able to look them up and read them along, you find it in the very next page. The next story we're going to tackle is called
The Fiddler of Death.
And if you paid attention to the podcast, you'll know we've done a portmanteau episode on fiddlers before. So Peter, in all his digging about, decided this is the one we're going to do for Uncle Sam, because it likes to talk about another fiddler.
Of course.
And essentially Uncle Sam's getting 2 stories in this episode. So there's a large establishing image, which, to use a phrase I use all the time, is nightmare fuel. There's obviously a US military vessel in the background, but there's also in the foreground what looks like apes and gorillas all carrying guns or aiming huge, massive cannons. And above it all is a very Fagin-esque looking figure in a purple sort of robe and hoods, playing a violin with discordant notes playing out. And we get a caption which is set to music by the looks of things, which reads,
A master fiend strings his violin and takes up his bow to spell a doom of a nation's defence, until Uncle Sam locks in battle with the monster horde as Death does a dance to a fiddler's tune.
Yes, the Fiddler of Death. So, a good start, listeners. Take a drink. There's a full moon looming in the background over this large fortress-looking castle-like building. A caption reads,
A pale moon shines down on Moorhead Prison, a moon which brings with it a grim message to a condemned prisoner.
And inside we see a guard standing outside a cell saying,
Get up, Joe! You're going to the state prison to die!
Joe is a very brutish-looking man with a shaved head and a thick moustache wearing green overalls. In panel 3, he's been taken from his cell. He's being walked along by 2 guards. Joe is saying, Gypsy never die. I may curse. By the witched blood that flows in my veins, I swear, these hands will kill after I am dead. They will kill, kill, kill.
Guards take Joe to the railroad station.
Yeah, we see a nice fancy old train. Joe approaching the train. He seems to be on his own here, actually, in panel 4. Doesn't seem to be accompanied at all. But anyway, Joe is saying, fine collection of peoples. They can live. I must die. And in the next panel, we see a very considerate-looking man, long black hair, wearing a neat purple suit and a large blue bow tie with a musical instrument case under his arm. And he's kneeling down to a little girl who's presenting him a bunch of flowers. Some flowers for you, sir, says the little girl. This man says,
For me? Thank you, child.
In the background, we should point out we can see Uncle Sam and his pal Buddy walking past. Buddy's a little boy, kind of blonde hair. And we see also Joe being led towards the train. He's observing what's going on, and he remarks, and great violinist with little kid.
Boarding the same train are Uncle Sam and Buddy on their way to Washington.
Yep, confirms. We see them in the background of the previous one, and they're framed almost by the close-up image of Joe's handcuffed hand attached to the prison guard's hand, and there's real emphasis on how big and brutish Joe's hand is in comparison. In the next panel, everyone's on board the train. Left to right in this carriage, we can see Sam and Buddy sitting. Sitting behind Buddy and Sam is the man in the purple suit who had the music instrument case, and behind him is the prison guard and Joe. Uncle Sam very helpfully says to us, Now, if you studied the violin, you could be like Mr. Malvolo.
Ah, violin playing is sissy stuff,
says Buddy, and that identifies the man behind him as a violin player called Mr. Malvolo, so that's useful. The next panel, we're down low, looking up at a big iron structure of a bridge, which the train's speeding across it, the clouds scurrying in the sky over, and from inside we hear Uncle Sam saying, You're wrong, Buddy. Music has great powers. Matter of fact, the greatest of powers. But we also see, at the bottom of this bridge, a couple of silhouetted dark figures up to no good. One of them says,
Uncle Sam's in that train. Blow it up.
Uh-oh. We're back inside the train in the next panel to see Joe ranting in response to what was just said. Ha! Greatest of powers! My hands are the greatest. They can kill! And Uncle Sam, who stands up, hands on his hips, not too impressed with this as he says, Hold on there, mister. As I understand it, you ain't going to kill any more.
Seconds later, a blast rents the air.
There is a massive boom, and we see the bridge exploding and the train being blown to fragments all over the place.
Like a tired giant, the railroad bridge collapses, hurling twisted trains to the gorge below. Mid smoking wreckage, 2 powerful arms rip a train's steel sides.
Yes, we see Uncle Sam emerging from the wreckage, pushing the piece of the train aside so he can escape.
As Uncle Sam carries Buddy to safety, 2 motionless figures lie amid the tangled wreckage.
We can see that the train has been brought down into a river, and floating in the water is the body of Joe. You see a nice shot of his shaved head, and his hand is looming towards his large grotesque hand. Malvolo is clinging to a piece of wreckage beside him, his hair draped over, obviously not doing very well.
From a nearby hospital, doctors speed to the scene on an errand of mercy.
Yep, an ambulance can be seen in the background, medical men rushing down towards the wreckage. We see what's left of the bridge up high above, and the caption for the next panel.
Siren screaming, an ambulance races with death. It carries Joe Romani and Malvolo.
Yes, it's a see what you see caption there, listeners. You see the ambulance speeding away, and another caption sets the scene.
At the hospital,
Uncle Sam in conversation with the doctor. The doctor says,
Romani's going fast. No hope. Malvolo's hands are shattered. I wonder if...
You got to save Malvolo, says Uncle Sam. And the caption for the next panel.
The cold eye of a spotlight outlines white masked figures bent over operating tables upon which motionless forms submit to the probing and cutting of surgical steel.
Capture does a lot of heavy lifting there. Very economically told. There's a shot of some surgeons carrying out work under a spotlight. Yeah, that's basically what we see. It's very, very effective. There's a slow dissolve.
The next day, as a figure, Malvolo awakens to consciousness.
Yes, Malvolo in the hospital bed, being visited by Buddy and Uncle Sam. Malvolo, he looks a little different, but we'll come to that in a second as to why. Malvolo says,
You have been very kind.
We thought you would like to have your violin, says Sam, bearing the instrument. But then,
As Uncle Sam and Buddy leave,
Malvolo looks down and says,
Yes, I will play again, but whose hands are these? These are not mine!
yes, he's alarmed to see instead of his own familiar hands, he now appears to have the hands of Joe Romani.
Gosh.
The big, thick, hairy hands, not the delicate, sensitive fingers of a violinist. And then in the final panel of page 3, Malvolo says,
They're killer hands! Curse them! Killer hands! My life's crushed, like this violin.
And with that, he grasps the violin in his new killer hand and breaks it, crushes it indeed, as he says. Gosh.
That moment, the door swings open. A nurse enters. Suddenly, she stares in horror.
Yes, the nurse sees Malvolo sitting in his bed. It looks as though his horrible new hands are reaching for her. She exclaims, Those hands! She drops the tray she's carrying, falls to the ground. And in panel 2, we see the silhouette of Malvolo, who's got out of bed and he's strangled the nurse. Malvolo says,
No one who looks on them shall live. No one!
and there's a vague from the nurse. And it must be said, the nurse's silhouette is rendered very, very clearly. In panel 3, Malvolo stands. He looks appalled and he says,
I've killed me, the lover of music and people, a murderer, because of these hands, cursed hands. I've got to get away. No one must see me. No one. Malvolo streaks down the hospital's fire escape into an alley.
and we see him cutting down what actually looks like cobbled streets here. And yes, take a drink. There's a full moon looming in the background. As he cuts along, he's saying,
Have to escape. Got to get out of the country. He dashes towards the docks, where a ship raises steam, ready to leave.
and we hear a voice on the ship crying, All hands on deck! We sail in 5 minutes! And Malvolo thinks,
I'll stow away. They'll never know till we're miles out at sea. Weeks later, the freighter anchors off the South American coast.
yes, a nice aerial shot of the globe showing the South American continent. Caption for the next panel.
Malvolo has been discovered.
Yes, we're pointing out Malvolo's hair seems to have been cut off. It's not the long, luscious locks he had earlier on. I wonder if that was just done at the hospital. Maybe they had to cut his hair before they operated in his hands.
Of course. It's standard procedure.
I wouldn't know. Malvolo, wearing purple overalls, is being held by a couple of sailors. The ship captain exclaims, A stowaway! Throw him off, men! Malvolo thinks.
Throw me off. Just what I want.
And the next panel shows Malvolo has been put in a little boat, set adrift, and we hear the ship's captain saying, And I hope those savages on shore rip you to ribbons. Gosh, now it all gets a bit Tarzan over the next couple of pages, listeners, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Caption for the next panel.
As the ship leaves him on shore, Malvolo twists about, finds himself attacked by fierce natives.
Yes, we see the ship setting sail into the distance in the background, disappearing over the horizon. Malvolo in his purple overalls and his little wooden rowing boat coming up on the beach. Lots of creepers and trees and stuff. And some, let's be honest, some racistly rendered natives running towards him. The first one yells, White man, die! And Malvolo exclaims,
What? Savages!
The caption for the next panel.
Then, with one hand, Malvolo grabs the man-giant.
Yes, grabs him round the throat and squeezes him. The native screams, yeah, and his tongue pops out and he's obviously been deaded.
Instead of turning on this man with strange hands, the natives cry out, dance about their chief's killer.
Yes, Malvolo stands above the dead body of the chief. Some others dance around saying things like,
He has beaten our chief.
Hail to our conqueror! And there's a slow dissolve and the caption for the next panel reads,
That night, Malvolo occupies the chief's hut.
and this panel shows a full moon looming over the hut in the middle of the jungle. Panel 3, we see Malvolo, whose hair seems to have returned. Okay.
It's the power of killing.
Yes, don't know it's not. Was that right? If I go out and murder someone, my hair's going to grow back.
You don't know until you try.
What is Peter leading me to here, listeners? Malvolo, exploring obviously the hut and sees a very primitive musical instrument lying on the ground, he says,
They think I'm great. Great because I can kill. Look, one of the crude violins. I wonder.
He picks it up. He's found a bow from somewhere. The full moon looming in the background, he starts to play.
I wonder if these new hands can make beautiful music.
unseen by Malvolo, a large gorilla ape-type creature looms behind him. Caption of the next panel.
Unseen, the ape draws close to Malvolo.
Malvolo is saying...
It's such weird music. Ah, an ape!
He's reacting, obviously, because he's seen the creature, but the creature doesn't seem too bothered. A full moon looms in the background as Malvolo continues to play in the next panel, saying...
The music, it stopped him. The music's doing things to him.
This is very reminiscent of the Tarzan book I read a few months ago, actually, in some ways. That had a lot of stuff with huts and people rushing in and out of them. That's all. The next panel shows the ape leaving the hut and Malvolo's voice from inside.
Get out, ape! Get out!
An insert panel shows him playing on this new primitive violin.
Can there be power in my hands? Power to play tunes at command? I'll try something.
So he fiddles away again.
Stand before me!
Yep, and the ape stops in its tracks, turns around and faces him.
He's obeying. I can do things with this savage instrument. Why, I can command the brutal apes of the jungle.
The brutal apes of the jungle, of course, didn't support menswear. They were too busy supporting Cooler Shaker that night.
Malvolo beats a path to the jungle and, with his violin, plays a weird melody, a compelling tune that makes slaves of primitive beasts.
Yes, a full moon looms in the background as Malvolo plays on his violin and the apes and gorillas dance all around him. Indeed, Malvolo, to reiterate this, says,
Dance, you devils, dance! You're my kind, gruesome, fearsome.
Gosh.
That moment, just off the South American coast, a US destroyer pulls toward shore. On board are Uncle Sam and Buddy on a goodwill tour.
We hear Sam's voice. Don't forget, Buddy, that good neighbour policy should mean what it's supposed to mean.
You're right. We've got to help our neighbours, not break 'em. Officials greet the boat, and the mayor tells Uncle Sam a strange story.
Yes, the mayor's a chap in a green suit with a red tie and what looks like a yellow hat. He has another moustache. Lots of moustaches around these days. The mayor is saying,
Amigos, it is true. There is a man who leads a pack of apes and raids our cities.
That's so. Maybe I'll look into this, says Sam. Wonder if it could be their imagination. Well, I'm going ashore. If trouble's about, it ought to strike when I'm around.
On shore, Uncle Sam spots a figure leaping into the bushes as he approaches.
Yes, no messing about. It's clearly Malvolo. There's a little dust sort of cloud as he speeds and jumps into the hedge. Sam says, Hey, does my coming scare people?
Uncle Sam goes after him.
Yeah, and then it looks as though Sam has climbed into a tree and then jumped out of the tree. Oh, very Tarzan. He jumps down on Malvolo, grabbing him by the shoulder, saying, Come back, you!
Let me go!
Malvolo was slammed into the ground against the base of a tree trunk in the next panel. Sam regards him and says, Malvolo, you, the famous violinist?
Famous? Ex-famous. My hands, they're big. Hopefully helping, Uncle Sam takes Malvolo back to the US warship.
Hopefully helping. The Montrose Avenue track 2 on their album was called Helplessly Hoping. So that's quite interesting. It's obviously a Crosby, Stills and Nash reference. So maybe Crosby, Stills and Nash read a copy of Uncle Sam Courtlish too, who can say, as Sam leads Malvolo back to the US warship, he's saying, Why don't you come back to the States?
I can't. They'll all feel sorry for me.
A slow dissolve.
Aboard the ship.
Sam addressing the ship's captain, with Malvolo beside him. Sam says, Captain, you remember the great Malvolo?
Sure, welcome. I hope you'll play... Oh, I forgot.
Yes. The next panel shows a couple of sailors at work cleaning the floor of the ship. Sam and Malvolo seem to be lurking nearby, overhearing the sailors' conversation. The first one says,
Sure feel sorry for that guy.
And his pal says,
See those hands?
And the next panel is very interesting. It's a shot of Malvolo looking completely unlike how he's looked in every other panel of the story. It's like we see him through a ship's porthole.
Must be a dirty porthole. Maybe that's why it's got that strange tint in his face.
What's a dirty porthole?
An unwashed one.
Oh, right. I just thought the way you said it, I thought you were trying
one for Tony Esmond there.
I thought, is that something from the Viz Profanosaurus or something? A dirty porthole.
Supported menswear.
Dirty porthole. Good grief. Apologies, Steve Higgins. Anyway, we are made aware of Malvolo's thoughts at this point.
Sorry for me? Sympathy? Fools, you've roused the curse of death.
And his hands are given emphasis there.
That night aboard the destroyer.
That's a nice shot of the ship at sea. But then there's one little man standing, telling us what's going on with his life right now.
Lonely standing guard at this hour. Wish there was someone around.
Yes. And he gets viciously strangled by Malvolo, who starts climbing up into the I suppose, is it the rigging? I don't know, but he starts climbing up this mast that's nearby, saying,
Great hands, they are great! I shall use them again tonight. they shall do the deed they were destined to fulfill.
And he climbs further up. The caption for technically panel 5, and we're still in the first row of page 7, reads,
High on the mast, Malvolo draws his bow, his weird instrument playing.
Yes, and we hear his maniacal laughter. And then the next panel is a shot of the jungle. With a full moon looming, we can see some of the apes, and the music starts to play and drift towards them. The caption for the next panel.
The jungle empties as ape creatures spring toward the waiting American ships.
Yeah, we see the music drifting again in front of full moon, and all the apes moving forward.
Guided by the strange tones, the apes clamber up the anchor chains.
Yes, see what you see.
They smash men and material. The jungle is loose.
Yeah, and it's a shot of some sailors fighting the mad apes. Apes being fired on by the sailors being kicked and punched out the road. The caption for the first panel on page 8 reads,
Meanwhile, Malvolo heads for Uncle Sam's stateroom.
Yeah, we see Sam asleep. Malvolo's silhouette appears in the doorway, looming and saying,
Meddling old fool, I'll kill him.
And he grabs him in panel 2. Sam wakes up and says, Malvolo, hey, you're choking me. What's the idea? Have you gone mad? With a pow, sends Malvolo flying. Gets out of bed. You should see that Sam is wearing a nice little hat in his bed. Buddy's head suddenly pokes through a porthole. Sam is lifting Malvolo up. Malvolo groans and says, Now that you're quiet, Malvolo, talk. What's the idea of all of this? Says Sam. In the background, Buddy, poking his head through the portal on the wall, notices one of the apes has arrived at the entrance to Sam's room.
As Buddy yells a warning, apes attack.
Apes Attack, wow.
The prequel to Amazon's Attack.
Prequel to Mars Attacks.
Yes.
Apes Attack sounds like the name of a band that would have played third in the bill at King Tut's in 1995 or something, doesn't it? Anyway, Malvolo's on the ground rubbing his head.
He stopped me with one punch. Just one. Oh, my head.
Sam is punching an ape away with a pow. Buddy strikes another ape on the head with, the handy little bit of metal which he seems to have in his hand, metal bar, and says,
You big ape, get away from Uncle Sam.
And he continues in the next panel.
Hey, you gorillas, come here and fight.
Yep, and Sam punches some of the gorillas and sends them flying to the wall. The next panel he grabs a gorilla by the neck and slams it into the wall as Malvolo makes his exit. Buddy notices this and says,
Uncle Sam, quick, Malvolo's getting away.
And in the final panel of page 8 we see Malvolo once again climbing up at the top of the ship, saying,
Now, I'll show them all. I'll play my greatest melody, bring the apes back under control, and wreak the havoc they all deserve.
It all starts kicking off in the top of page 9. The caption for the first panel reads,
But Malvolo's musical spell is broken. The apes go wild. One of them seizes the helm, and the ship runs aground, smashing full into a snake-infested reef.
Yes, see what you see captioning. We might put that little sequence on the socials because it's all very effective. Inset panels and high shots of the ship, and then the ship crash against the reef, and then the caption for the next panel reads,
And from the shore, slimy creatures slither up the sides of the vessel.
Oh my goodness, this poor man who appears to be poking his head out of a portal has been grabbed and is basically strangled by a snake.
Gosh.
Oh my goodness. And on the deck of the ship, Sam takes everything in that's going on and yells, Tarnation! The ship's stuck! Hey, Buddy, get off the mast! And we see in the next panel, Buddy is climbing up the rigging after Malvolo, who's still up in the crow's nest, I hope I'm using all the correct terminology, playing his violin and laughing maniacally to himself, and Buddy says,
I'm coming after you, Malvolo.
But then Buddy looks down in the next panel and sees,
A snake! Uncle Sam, help!
he's being followed. In the next panel, we see Sam with guns in the ocean behind him, very, very effective, looking up at Buddy and yells, Hold on, Buddy, I'll be right up. He runs towards the rigging himself. Buddy yells,
He's coming for me, help!
You see the snake rearing up and getting closer. And the caption for the final panel of page 9.
As the snake strikes, Buddy is frozen with fear.
But just in time, Sam reaches up and grabs the snake, stopping it from striking at Buddy, and Sam says, Come here, you overgrown angleworm. Caption for the first panel of page 10.
As Malvolo slides from danger's path, Uncle Sam grapples with a powerful snake.
Yes, as Sam is battling the snake, Malvolo has jumped out the crow's nest and started sliding down a pole behind him.
He hurls it down, and its sagging weight shoots hard upon Malvolo's head.
Great shot of Sam throwing the snake, and the snake colliding with Malvolo, whose hair seems to have vanished again, still holding his violin. Oh, and then horribly, the caption for the next panel.
In a flash, the snake squeezes tightly. Life ebbs from the mad violinist.
Yeah, the snake has coiled itself around Malvolo in an instant, squeezing him tight, indeed, as the caption says. His tongue sticks out, his eyes boggle. In the next panel, it's down on the ground. The snake continues to coil and constrict. Malvolo gasps,
No, my pet, don't!
High up in the rigging, Sam and Buddy look down. Sam says, "Nothing we can do, buddy."
You guess Malvolo's done for.
Caption for the next panel.
Suddenly, an ape's scream rends the air. Uncle Sam dives to the aft deck.
Yeah, it seems as though he's grabbed a chain or a rope to slide down, land on the deck. Next panel, Sam picks up Malvolo's weird violin. The apes all stand in circle as Sam starts to play, saying, "Only one way to stop these critters. Play Malvolo's fiddle. Something strange and powerful about it. It's gotta work."
Driven by the music, the apes leap into the water. They swim toward the mainland.
That's what we see, helpfully. Caption for the next panel.
Free of the menace, Uncle Sam holds the fiddle. Then
He smashes it on the guardrail beside him, saying, "Dang violin, I hope you break into a million bits. You ain't got no right to cause so much trouble." And a slow dissolve.
days
The
later,
boat continuing across the sea, Buddy says quietly,
want me to study the violin, Uncle Sam?
"I can't hear a word, Buddy. Not a word." And that indeed is the end. Well, that was all very violent,
That
wasn't
was
it?
ridiculous. What is it about these other fiddlers that make them mega, mega violent? But it's great. So entertaining, though.
You know, the snake-filled reef. Snake-infested reef. I mean, gosh. And then the fact that, you know, that man was casually just destroyed, another snake has, you know, did it kill any of the apes? You know, I'm just like, oh my goodness, just so much.
I do love the guard standing, talking to himself, alone on deck, and then getting strangled from behind. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
He probably did kill him, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he's dead.
It's an interesting one. There's some really nice panels in isolation, like the ones of the animals being affected by the music. The storytelling there is gorgeous. You don't really need the captions to even tell it. It's
Yeah.
clear what's going on.
Uh-huh.
Some of the figure work's a wee bit ropey. You could do a selection of panels of Malvolo and he wouldn't look the same in half of them.
That's true. Yeah, he looks very different in pretty much every other panel.
I guess it's maybe just the effect of the cursed hands of Joe Ramone
Could be.
corrupting
yeah.
him. Is it the best Uncle Sam story? I'm not sure. But it's another fiddler, I suppose.
Yes.
It's a throwback to our earlier portmanteau.
The Fiddler of Death.
Yeah, and let's be honest, looking back at the image of the fiddler on the first page, that doesn't look anything like Marvolo or whatever he was called at any point, really, does it?
No, it's true. He doesn't have a hood up, no.
The weird staring blue eyes look a little different, but I suppose it does show it shows the apes manhandling the guns and all that. That doesn't really happen either.
No.
That's the equivalent of one of those Hammer horror posters that makes you think it's going to be all boobs and fantastic special effects, and you watch it and you go, right, okay,
There you go.
not quite.
Speaking of Hammer movies, it's very much an old horror trope, having the hands replaced and being possessed by the
very
killer's hand.
Hands of Orlac or something,
Yeah,
or what's that episode from Dr. Horror's House of Horrible with the feet?
Feet of Death. is
Yes.
it? Which was fantastic, which, funnily enough, co-stars Jonathan Cake.
Who played the Shade so well in Stargirl, that's right.
Yes.
I remember when I told you that, you were very excited. I love the fact that Uncle Sam sleeps in a nightshirt. That's pretty cool.
Is it not Voodoo Feet of Death? I think it's Voodoo Feet
Yeah,
of Death.
something like that,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, the night shot's really cool, yeah.
And the fact that Buddy just happened to stick his head through it's, you know, you could do an absolute page-by-page analysis and just go, right, this is a bit odd. I mean, the fact it's so economical that Sam finds Malvolo straight away.
Yeah.
Malvolo spots him first and runs away to hide. You know, that's very economical. No time wasted there, Sam searching the interior for Malvolo. I was fascinated with the fact that he can hypnotise the animals.
Yes, that's cool.
Is it because of the violin, or is it because of his curse? Are the animals susceptible to it? So many questions.
Well, Sam managed to, fiddle the apes away. So could be some lingering energy in the violin from the evil entity. Who knows?
I don't know.
Who
And
knows?
he just smash it up to prevent it being used again.
Did Sam use sheer patriotism to repel the apes?
I think he may well have done. I'm glad that Malvolo wasn't seen being just eaten by the snake. That would have been terrible. It's bad enough that he was crushed.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting selection of panels to represent this one on the socials, listeners.
Might put the whole thing up, actually. As I said, it is public domain, so,
I'll probably just put a few highlights on Instagram, but we might stick the full story on Facebook so you can check it out.
We should talk a bit about Buddy, because Uncle Sam is a sidekick. And that's something that is pretty much not referenced at all since he actually comes back, to be honest, in the Bronze Age.
That's a fair point.
All through the Golden Age, he had a kid sidekick called Buddy.
Yeah.
Not even mentioned, as far as I'm aware, in the Stargirl miniseries either.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not familiar enough with Sam to know how many stories Buddy was in.
Well, he was in a lot,
etc.
yeah.
Is he? Right,
yeah.
okay. I suppose he's just some generic little kid that that kids can sort of imagine was them, I suppose.
Yeah, I can't remember the origin of Buddy, but yeah.
A very grotesque story in places.
Mm-hmm.
As you say, the horror trope of the transplanted hands, like the panel in the middle of the bottom of page 3 where Malvolio beholds what's happened to him.
Yeah.
That's a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
That old joke, well, doctor, will I still be able to play the violin? Could you play the violin before the operation? We'll know. It's that the one that I'm mangling, the one I mean. Yes, this was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
From train bridges being blown up to natives and apes and snakes and stuff.
Yeah. That panel with him looking at his giant hands kind of looks a bit Hank McCoy-ish, doesn't it?
It does a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did remind me of a Tarzan book, though, in a lot of ways. The way the change of locale and the coincidence levels and stuff, and the violence as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's very, very of its time, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Always makes you think the Comics Code had a point. When was the last time you saw a bad guy getting killed by a snake?
Yeah, not hugely often, is it?
Or falling into quicksand or something else. It feels very, very old school.
But still, great fun.
Oh, absolutely.
That's one of the reasons why I chose this as the Uncle Sam representative story.
Yeah.
And it was mostly because there's a fiddler in it, which is great.
Yes.
Check out our Fiddlers 3 episode, folks, if you haven't already.
Please do. One of our favourites, one of our absolute favourites. So, our next story, we're jumping back in time, actually, a little earlier in 1941 to Crack Comics issue 14, published back in May. Peter's going to tell you about the cover.
Yes, it says July, number 14, 10 cents at the very top. Crack Comics, quality comic group. Down the left-hand side, we have 4 circles, highlighting some of the characters you'll find in this very issue. You have the Clock, Alias the Spider, Molly the Model, and Ned Brandt.
Ned Brandt, is that about an uneducated delinquent called Brandt?
Could be.
Who just bombs around?
Could be.
That's fascinating. Ned's a Scottish word, listeners, for a wee bam, a wee guy that's just... Anyway.
Yes. But the main image on the cover says the Black Condor in another thrilling adventure. And we have the Black Condor indeed. He's flying into action. It looks like it's almost like a mine shaft. Kind of. There's someone manacled to a wooden beam who doesn't look too healthy. Black Condor's flying in, punching a guy who's got a whip. Gosh, this is horrible.
Yeah, the guy with the whip is hooded and Black Condor's wearing bright red lipstick. It's almost like, is this Black Condor in the adventure of the bondage dungeon?
Could be.
Let's
read on.
We'll have to crack on, if you pardon the pun, and find out. Right, our opening splash image, very, very striking. Just a Black Condor logo, and a caption tells the story is by
Louis K. Fine.
Artwork's gorgeous. The first main image is basically Black Condor in his familiar costume, black sort of cape stretched across both arms, black trunks, black boots, and he's in mid-air. Looks like he's punching out someone wearing another almost identical costume, but the colours are paler. Very, very interesting. And there's some sort of industrial situation going on in the background, and an establishing caption reads,
"The scholarly Senator Tom Wright and the mighty Black Condor are one and the same, though this fact is known only to Wright's fiancée's father, Dr. Foster. Now, into the thick of industrial strife, the Condor smashes to expose an impersonator."
Gosh, right, you got that, listeners? There's another little insert panel at a nice 45-degree angle, which shows a man with white hair and a brown suit with looks like some money in his hand. Looks very, very proud of himself. Looks like he's in an office, the big window behind him. The caption reads,
"While in his distant tower office, the political and industrial tyrant Jasper Crow, attired in dictator-like regalia, gloats over his foul slave-driving profits."
This is all very topical, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, caption for the first panel on page 2.
"One of Crow's great plants is now a hotbed of violent labour unrest."
Yeah, it's a big shot of a factory with chimneys and a railway line and lots of workers moving around. Panel 2 is a chap in an orange shirt talking to an older man in a hard hat. The younger man in the orange shirt is holding some notes in his hand, banknotes in his hand, and he's saying, "There, look at that, script. We get paid with nothing but paper, and only good at Crow's own company store." And the older chap in the white hat and the yellow hard hat says,
"Yeah, and we ain't going to stand for it any longer."
That's pretty poor. Paper, only good at the company's own. That's very modern.
Gift vouchers.
Yeah,
paid in
exactly.
Gift vouchers.
Getting paid in blooming, oh my goodness. Well, caption for the next panel.
"Among the great machines, angry protests are heard to mount."
Beautiful technical drawing here of cogs and wheels and industrial equipment, and a couple of lads are there. One guy, also in an orange shirt, says, "Suckers, that's what we all are." The chap next to him says,
"Nobody makes a slave out of me."
"Well, let's throw a scare into Crow right now. Listen. I'll tell you how to start, says the man in the orange shirt, looking very, very mad-eyed and focused.
But a company spy listens in on the plot.
Yes, again, very nice, precise technical drawing of some of the equipment. The guy in green is lingering in the background, and he says, Jasper will be glad to know this.
Soon the great machinery grinds to a stop. Small knots of workers begin to converge into one large group.
Yep, another man standing up above and amongst the giant cogs, addressing the crowd, saying,
Men, now is the time to strike. Are we together?
Sure, we're together, says one younger man, and the guy in the orange shirt who looks very like the guy we saw in panel 2 is saying, Crow's done rubbing us into the dirt.
But company policemen grimly spring into readiness.
Yes, uniformed policemen, 2 of them grabbing their batons, starting to run. The first one says,
Warn the men in the yard.
First panel of page 3, we see the company policemen paid by company vouchers. It's all very modern, isn't
Yeah.
it? Good grief. The foresight is astonishing. See a bunch of them rushing into action. The guy at the front saying,
This fuss is no joke. I'm afraid Crow has dug these guys into mean states.
yeah, they're not happy about it either. Caption for panel 2.
And hatred charges the air as the police barge into the surly workers.
Yeah, we see the police starting to strike the workers with their batons. The first cop says, You sharp guys only get lumps for your trouble. Another one says,
Come on, break it up. And suddenly, like a dark angel of peace, the figure of the Black Condor is seen on a building.
Astonishing panel. It's great that these things are in the public domain.
Yeah.
That increases everyone's chances of being able to read along with us. This
Yeah.
is amazing. It's almost like it looks like a spotlight, but it's one of the chimneys.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the silhouetted figure of the Black Condor is his arms stretched out, showing his sort of wing-like cape. And one of the boys down on the ground spots him and yells,
The Condor, look, he's come to help his men. But what's this? Instead, the man who flies zooms down and attacks the downtrodden strikers.
Well, that's unexpected. We see the Condor flying down and striking the boy in the yellow shirt that was just shouting. One man in an orange shirt watches them in the next panel saying, Why, you double-crossing vulture!
The supposedly invincible Black Condor weakly wilts under heavy blows.
Yeah, the man in the orange shirt and the dungarees punches at the Condor saying, You ain't our friend at all! And in the final panel of page 3, the Condor is down on his knees as the guy in the orange shirt and the overalls walks towards him saying, Black Condor, phooey, yellow Condor.
Go away.
Says the Condor, which is all surprising. And the caption for the first panel of page 4 reads,
And the amazed workers see the Condor run in cowardly terror.
Yep, Condor with his cape up to his face, running away, followed by some of the workers. In panel 2, it looks like they're running along the top of one building. The man in the orange shirt yelling, Ha! Why don't you fly? Or ain't that fast enough?
The half-stumbling traitor quickly disappears, and the roar of a starting car's engine swells up.
Interesting. We cut back to the man in the orange shirt and a couple of his colleagues. The man in the orange shirt says, The yellow fake even had to use a car to escape. And an old chap next to him says,
We thought he was brave. While the company police finally quell the strike riot with tear gas.
Oh my goodness, yes, that's what we see. The workers recoiling in horror and pain as the company policemen strike them with gas. Oh my goodness. A slow dissolve.
Next morning, in Washington, Senator Tom Wright reads of the riot and shameful Condor exhibition.
Now, there's an enormous narrative leap here from the Condor, from Tom Wright. Actually, we used to have a regular customer when I worked in HMV called Tommy Wright. I suddenly remember. Anyway, Tom Wright looking at this blank newspaper, and he's made the narrative leap when he says,
So, Crow has created my phony double. Instantly, he begins to strip, revealing the true Condor.
Yeah, takes off his suit wearing the familiar darker Black Condor costume underneath.
I can't wait. I'll show that fake he plays a dangerous game.
And with that he makes his exit.
Then through an open window, with grace that is only genuine, the Dark Destroyer knifes through the night.
Final panel of page 4 is a gorgeous aerial shot of Black Condor flying over the city, down towards Crow's Place. First panel of page 5 is captioned.
Meanwhile, the plotting disgruntled workers hold a strike meeting to lay new plans.
Yeah, we see one buff lad in a yellow shirt saying,
We'll lick Crow, and that flying faker he hired won't help him.
a voice from above yells,
You mean the Black Condor?
The boy in the yellow shirt looks up incredulous, and then we see Black Condor standing in the beams above saying,
Stay there, I'll be right down.
and
Then,
we see Condor flying down. He lights beside the boy in the yellow shirt who says,
Ha! So it's you again, eh? Didn't you get pounded enough the last time? Why,
but Condor cuts him off saying,
shut up.
caption for the next panel,
The Condor easily avoids the vicious swings.
yeah, he ducks down as the boy tries to punch him, but then he comes back with another left uppercut, knocking out the boy in yellow shirt saying,
Here, take a nap, friend.
and the caption for the next panel reads,
In awe, the men cower in new respect.
yep, see Condor standing, facing up against some of the workers. One guy says, But you're a tool of Crow's. and we'll get you somehow. And obviously that's a reference to the fact that they still think that this Condor is the guy who fought them earlier on and is an employee of their boss.
The Condor wheels and...
Moves towards an open door, and he says to himself in the final panel of page 5,
That's it, Crow. I'll call on him now.
and we arrive at the top of page 6.
And in a fortified retreat, Jasper Crow glowers like a maniac over his riches.
Yes, we see Jasper, all dressed in brown, trousers tucked into his boots, make of that what you will. He's a weird sort of harness round his, from his belt round his chest. I suppose that's what it says at the start about him looking like a dictator. He has white hair, glasses, very exaggerated features, and he's on his knees looking in this little box of money, saying, Ha! My empire, and all built on those fools. Soon I won't care if they do strike. I've bled the business's resources. Ha!
Suddenly, an ominous shadow falls on the wall. It grows.
Yes, very familiar shadow. We know it's the Condor. Jasper gets to his feet. He's lit by a candle inexplicably in this panel. Maybe that's why he made all his money.
Yeah.
Uses candles instead of electricity. A man after my own heart. Jasper gets to his feet and sees the silhouette of the Condor in the doorway in front of him, saying, You? I told you. I won't need you till tomorrow.
Is that so, Jasper?
They leave this room where all the money is kept. Jasper locking the door behind him, saying, Yes, I'm busy. Be at plan number 4 tomorrow. We'll break that union.
Oh, we will, eh?
See another little candle up in the alcove. I'm into it. However, while this conversation is going on, the caption for the next panel reads,
Spying on the outside is the false Condor. He whips out a gun.
Yes, we see the false Condor looking at, we now know as the real Condor and Jasper through the window. Caption for the next panel,
Then,
he's obviously gone inside and sticks the gun in the back of the Black Condor, saying,
get him up, sucker.
and Jasper exclaims, the real Condor! He's realised that he was not talking to his lackey. The caption for the next panel,
Disdainful of his imitator's gun, he walks slowly away, chuckling in mock irony.
yes, a good shot of the Condor smiling. He's got his hood up here. Obviously he was using that as part of his disguise. And in the caption for the next panel,
The stupefied pair spring to life.
yes, because all of a sudden, the false Condor and Jasper are standing there on their own. False Condor exclaims,
He's disappeared. Where'd he go so quick? But if they had looked into the sky...
It's a shot of the Black Condor flying, and then he alights on a building for the final panel of page 6, as the caption reads,
Then later, the dread figure is poised before the moon.
Yes, take a drink, listeners, because Black Condor is stunning the roof of a building with the moon, full moon behind him. Fantastic. Hope you're keeping up with all this as we arrive at the top of page 7.
Jasper Crow and his second-rate Condor mimic ponder this new menace to their plans.
Second-rate Condor mimic. Supported menswear, blah, blah, blah. How many bands have supported menswear today, listeners?
A lot.
Quite a lot, because we recorded more than one episode today, and it feels like we've made that joke far, far too many times.
And we've also recorded 3 menswear covers.
This is true. Wait to hear our version of Being Brave. Yes, drink, show me a Fanta. It's on my Apple Music favourites mix this week. It's the wrong time of year for it. That's a springtime song, is Being Brave. Anyway, Jasper and the Condor are standing. The Condor actually looks really quite evil here. His eyes look hidden and dark and scary, and Jasper looks like a real Jasper as he says, I told him about plan number 4 tomorrow. That means he'll be there somehow.
Well, the men hate him because they think he's with you. We'll frame him.
Another cracking shot of industrial machinery working in the next panel. Who was it drew this again?
Lou Fine.
Lou Fine must have
Yeah.
had some background in that, eh?
This is great.
There's a caption reading,
Next day, again in operation, the great plant number 4 renews its profit stream into Crow's greedy pockets.
Yes, as we say, men at work. Caption for panel 3.
Men at work supported menswear.
I don't think they did.
Sorry, okay.
Anyway,
Bent over, feigned labour, the Condor peers about furtively.
yes, we see the actual Condor in disguise. He has a blue shirt on over his costume.
A company spy sows words of suspicion.
Yeah, a couple of buff-looking chaps with no shirt on but big hats, obviously sweating in the foundry. The first one says, Sure, that's Crow's spying bum. Look, he's afraid to take his shirt off like the rest.
Sure, now I see. Workers approach the marked man.
And in the next panel, Condor whirls around, sees them coming and says,
Why the sneaky business, men?
The sneaky businessman supported. Right. In the next panel, the buff shirtless wonder says in response to Condor's question, You know why? Why don't you take that shirt off, you yellow crow stool pigeon? Hurls a big metal bar at the Condor.
Then, back. The Condor is now forced by a hot iron straight to the mouth of a smelting furnace.
Yes, the big buff shirtless worker is holding an iron bar which is obviously glowing red hot at the end. He's waving it in front of him, driving Black Condor backwards, saying, "Ha! Get Krog to help you now."
Think you have me, eh?
"I'll say we gotcha. You're a crooked sparrow. Don't you wish now you really could fly?"
With inches separating him from death, the Dark Destroyer coolly sheds his shirt.
And indeed, Black Condor starts to disrobe, saying,
You wish for me? I'm tired of this horseplay.
and indeed the caption of the first panel of page 8,
As the men stare pop-eyed, the Birdman soars up and through an open roof vent. He circles the plant once, twice, then in a screaming dive he heads for another opening.
This is just gorgeous. Again, the detail from Lou Fine, the caption for panel 3.
Soon workers look upward to behold the awe-inspiring figure.
Condor has flown back in and alighted on a steel girder above some of the workers, saying,
Listen, men, listen to me.
"Listen to Me" obviously was a top 10 hit for the Hollies, who I worked for last Friday. There we go. Buff worker man says, He really can fly like a bird. And a very moody shot, a side profile of Condor here. He looks very much like the young John Hurt, it must be said. He's saying,
I'm your friend, the real Black Condor. You were fooled before by one who imitated me. My double works for Jasper Crow. I'll take care of him.
a caption for panel 6.
Ever on the alert, again a company spy views the scene.
Yeah, I'm not into these company spies. We see one guy looming and lurking, lit up by the foundries, saying, the real one. Jasper better know about this.
A phone call interrupts a talk between Crow and his false condor.
Crow and the false condor in the office. We see him replacing the handset, and Crow says, "That devil is in plant 4 again,"
What will we do?
says the fake condor. However,
A crash, and...
yep, the real condor bursts through the window, saying,
You won't do a thing, because I've decided to bring to an end your evil deceptive plots.
the final panel of page 8, we see the condor flying, the false condor and Jasper, up in the air over some buildings down below. Jasper says, Why you? You can't do this. Take us down this instant, I say.
Drop down if you wish, Jasper. That's one sight I'd love to see.
And then in the first panel of page 9, Condor says,
As for you, my clumsy image, if you can fly, you'd better begin right now.
and with that he lets go of the false condor. Right, caption for panel 2.
And on the ground...
Yep, we see a couple of workers standing in front of the chimneys. One man in an orange shirt points and says, Look, it's the real condor. He's carrying a man. He's dropped one. In panel 3, Condor, still bearing Jasper, says,
Now, wouldn't this be an appropriate place to let you fall, Jasper Crow?
No, don't. I'll give you anything.
Okay, first of all, I'll just turn you upside down and empty your bulging pockets of their greedy gold, squeezed from workers.
Indeed, we see Condor tipping Jasper. The caption for the next panel,
And the miserly Crow is engulfed by currency, which rains down to be snatched by workmen below.
fantastic. We see captioning as we see a terrified-looking Jasper, appalled as all the notes and coins fall from his pockets. Gosh.
The following day, meek and still trembling, Jasper Crow signs a humane labour contract.
Yes, we see Jasper sat at his desk looking very unhappy, but with a pen in hand, signing on a piece of paper. A couple of men look on. A full moon looms through the window, and we see what we presume is the Black Condor flying past. A slow dissolve.
Later, the Black Condor has returned to the role of Senator Tom Wright. He calls his fiancée Wendy Foster.
Yes, this panel's taken up with two little insert headshots of Tom and Wendy on the phone to each other. Tom saying,
I'll be late getting over to dinner, dear.
and Wendy replies, "Oh, did you read of what that glorious condor did yesterday?"
No, dear, I've been too busy to see any papers.
Because he's been a senator, you see. But anyway, that's us. That's the end.
The
end.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he just dropped the other condor from the sky.
Well, maybe he can fly.
I don't.
Well, he did come down from that tall building.
I'm just
at the beginning of the story.
flicking back to that.
He might be able to glide.
Yeah,
a bit.
well, he does. He flies down and zooms down on the tacks and then runs away. And obviously, I think he runs away because he's been struck.
He must be able to glide a bit with the cape.
Yes, I would hope that he didn't just go falling into one of the furnace chimneys and just get. Oh my goodness, that was brutal.
Yeah. Jasper Crow is a recurring villain in the Black Condor series at this point. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it is kind of reasonable for him to jump to the conclusion that Jasper Crow is up to no good.
Right, I see. Yeah, because I felt it was that narrative leap.
Yeah.
Because hang on, let's flick back. Because Condor says, is it when he's got the blank newspaper
Mm-hmm.
So Crow has created my phony double. So obviously, right.
Yeah.
So he has had run-ins with him previously.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if Condor suspected he was going to try and do this.
May have done.
Yeah, we don't learn anything about who the other Condor is.
No, not at all. And obviously it looks just like him as well.
Yeah, he doesn't have any lines apart really from "get him up, sucker," and the men will hate him because he thinks with you. Right, so they talk about trying to frame him, but they don't actually get that far.
No.
Because Condor gets free and speaks to the men himself.
Yep.
Before Condor then he saves Jasper, but drops the other guy out of thin air. Oh my goodness.
It's very workers' rights, isn't it?
Yeah, for the time, 1941, this is revolutionary. It's very down with the man, isn't it?
Yeah, the factory and everything and all the workers, it's very Metropolis-like.
Yes.
You know, it's very, everything's just a cog in a wheel, as it were.
By which you mean the Fritz Lang Metropolis,
Of course, yes.
not where Superman lives.
Yes. But yeah,
Gosh.
it's great stuff.
I'm kind of stunned. I mean, Jasper obviously established an opening page, so that maybe affirms it. Maybe readers should expect him. I'm going to have to read some more stories. I want to know what happened. What happened to the other Condor? Did he fall through a dimensional portal and end up somewhere else when we write our DC comic?
Yeah.
What happened to the other Black Condor?
And he gained the power of flight as he did so. That'd be great.
Yes, like what happened
Lands
to...
on Earth 3.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, actually, yes. The Earth 3 Black Condor, perfect.
We're going to see another Black Condor, but not for a very long time. Years and years away, probably, well, actually, as the crow flies.
As the Condor flies.
That was, I mean, everything about the brutal sort of company police force and all that, and
just coming and beating
subjugation
them
of
up
their colleagues. I mean, how is that all going to be reconciled with the new Labour contract? So many questions.
And the moles that work for Crow as well, that, you know, are basically instigating things with the workers. It's really interesting.
I mean, I genuinely can't imagine a story like this being done nowadays.
No, definitely not.
It's very political. It's so political.
I can see a certain extent it being done, but it'd be like I was going to say Vertigo, it'd be a Black Label book.
Sure.
It reminds me a little bit of American Carnage, a wee bit, which was a very short-lived but excellent series. I don't know why it reminds me of that, but it's just the kind of brutality and the feel of it. Maybe a bit like Scalped as well to a certain extent.
Tell me what American Carnage was. It rings a bell vaguely.
It's a southern political crime thriller.
Right. Okay.
But it's very good.
Okay.
But it's horrible, but it's great.
Yeah, there's been a lot of brutality in this across both the stories in this episode. Surprisingly, actually, with men being crushed by snakes and ersatz superhero impersonators being dropped from a great height to their possible death. I need a bit of a lie down, listeners. Don't know about you.
I know, but a second Black Condor.
I know.
Who knew?
I didn't.
There you go.
Until we had the idea. Are we going to do a Road to Freedom Fighters? Yes. Okay. Shall I do some digging? Yes. Spear went off and did some digging. Whilst I swarmed about or condored about,
and I came back with a second Black Condor.
I mean, it's a weird one. I feel there's a disconnect between the depth and quality of the artwork and some of the casual violence and corporate sort of disregard. It's fascinating.
The very cartoony look of Crow being held upside down and everything shaking from his pockets is it's just ridiculous.
Compared to the hyper-realism almost of the way the Condor himself is sort of rendered. Look at
exactly the previous panel.
Bottom left-hand corner of page 6. Look at him there. The way he's drawn, it's stunning.
Yeah.
One thing, as we often do, I usually ask earlier in episodes, can you remember when you first encountered Uncle Sam and Black Condor?
I think it was both at the same time because I picked up an issue of the 70s Freedom Fighter series from the Glasgow Barras. Right. They used to have a place that had piles and piles of comics with like the prices written in pencil on the back cover there, and I was trying to get as much DC knowledge as possible at that time. I thought, I've never seen this series before. What is this? Who are these people? I do not know any of them. I think it was the one with the roller coaster on the cover.
Yeah, I think you said that last week.
So I think that was the first one.
Yeah. Well, again, similar. I think it was probably in the pages of All Star Squadron. I remember they both had really good, Uncle Sam and Black Condor both had really good issues in Secret Origins. Black Condor co-starring on the cover with Jonah Hex.
I know.
And Uncle Sam with The Guardian. I seem to remember, I think the Sam story was drawn by Murphy Anderson. I could be wrong.
Lovely.
But they were both really, really good. And I remember that there was a sort of, Roy couldn't help himself with the Secret Origins for Black Condor, and that he kind of introduced a glowing green meteorite to explain why he could fly. And then there's that whole thing, of course, about how Black Condor himself isn't the real Tommy Wright.
He's not, no.
He comes across him being assassinated and just sort of
takes on his
identity. Because they're identical, which is another fascinating aspect of it all. I mean,
maybe this fake Black Condor is the brother of the guy who was of Tommy Wright.
The real Tom Wright. I don't know. I mean, that's a bit of an extrapolation if you ask me, but who knows? was another Black Condor who popped up in the early 90s, was a member of the Justice League for a brief while.
Yeah.
Went on to be used in Starman, went on to be a member of Primal Force. So we'll probably put some covers up of him at some point over the next few weeks, I think.
And then there's a subsequent Black Condor after that. Because he was bumped off, and then you had...
I know, he was killed, was it Infinite Crisis, I think?
Yep,
yeah. Raid, don't start me.
I know, unnecessary, and then basically all replaced instantly.
Yeah, by
Pretty
other
much.
versions, to no one's satisfaction, really.
But yeah.
Sometimes Jeff Johns, I agree with the people that criticise you. Anyway, so this week, as we say, listeners, that's been Uncle Sam and Black Condor. Next week, we will meet the Ray, Phantom Lady, and Dollman.
How exciting.
Can't wait, actually. Can't wait.
So what do you think about the stories we've covered so far? Are you anticipating the ones that are due up? Let us know. You can email us at theearth2podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on social media because, as I said, I'll be putting up as much of this as I can on our Facebook page. And David will be adding a lot to Instagram as well as Twitter. So on Facebook and Instagram, we're at the Earth 2 Podcast, and at Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2.
Yes, if you're enjoying our podcast, please go to wherever it is you receive them and give a positive review. I'm told such things are good for our visibility and etc. And as we've said in the past, if you're enjoying what we're doing, tell your pals, spread the word. And we'll be back next week with episode 2, or is it technically episode 3 of The Road to the Freedom Fighters?
Depends if you count Human Bomb. Human Bombs is its own thing, I think.
Yes.
So there we are. On that note,
played on a dark fiddle by a scary man who had his hands transplanted.
On that note, it's making those monkeys dance.
Yes.
I've been Peter.
I've been David. Bye. See you next time on
the Earth 2 Podcast.
Waving for the benefit of our YouTube viewers.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
And indeed, Black Condor starts to disrobe, saying,
"You wish for me? I'm tired of this foreplay."
It's not what he says. I find that inappropriate and rude. You're not allowed to frown at Harry Enfield after coming out with that. You're dirty-minded so-and-so.
That's
Outtake City, New Jersey.
Earth 2 Podcast nights.